I'm Jay Horton. I make movies that make money. This is how.
Love that countdown, man. It's so dramatic. All right. Anyway, so here I am doing my end of the year live stream AMA. Feel free to drop questions as we go. I'm going to be covering a variety of topics on distribution and marketing. Andrew says, how do we know we're getting the most out of our film upon initial decisions on distribution? There's so many options out there. Tough to decide on the most impactful path from YouTube for free VOD, etc. I think he had more on that too, didn't he? Oh, I guess not. Anyway, so how do you know you're getting the most optimal path for your movie and distribution? This is a complicated question. So I'm going to start out by saying there really isn't one optimal path for distribution for films. You know, uh, there's so many different ways to get in, and at the end of the day, all of these streamers and distributors or places like FilmHUB or distributors that deal with lower budget movies, they all get movies in basically the same places. You're going to end up on Amazon, you're going to end up on Tubi, you'll eventually end up on YouTube, and then half a dozen other platforms. And it all ends up being basically about the same. For me, when it comes to picking a distribution outlet or whether I'm going to self-distribute or use FilmHub or whatever, for me it really just comes down to a matter of trust. To illustrate this, there are two filmmakers this year that I've interviewed on my channel, and they both did comedies last year. And both comedies were produced for right around $30,000, somewhere between 20 and 30. And one of the filmmakers did Amazon Prime, or I'm sorry, did Prime Video Direct on their own, the TVOD rental component, and then they gave the rest to FilmHub. The other chose indie rights. And, they're both basically the same level of movie, same type of movie. Both of these movies earned over $100,000 in their first year. The one did it almost exclusively on Amazon TVOD rental, and they used a mix of organic marketing and paid ads to drive traffic to it. The other filmmaker, their movie earned like 95% of what it did on Tubi TV, and used almost exclusively organic marketing. So you can decide, hey, I'm going to use FilmHub to do this, or hey, I'm going to use indie rights, or hey, I'm going to use Uncorked, or hey, I'm going to use Vision Films. And there are differences, but at the end of the day, overall, it's kind of the same. It just comes down to like who do you trust? And for me, I've said this many times, I tend to use indie rights for projects that I think have a little bit more legs for me, that have more market potential, and I use FilmHub for pretty much everything else. I don't do a lot of Amazon on my own anymore, although that is something that may change. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But and the second part to this question is, second part of the answer to this question is, like filmmaking is not a clean, it's not a simple, clean thing. Like if you're risk averse, like filmmaking is not for you, at least not the entrepreneurial aspect of it. Like it is all about risk. It's about risk of your time. It's about risk of your money. Like there are no guarantees. I've said on my channel many times, you could follow every single piece of advice that I give, and do everything just right, and the market might reject the film. You just don't know. We never know how it's going to play out. Filmmaking is it's a tough game. So I always tell people, that are, looking to get into filmmaking, at least like the producing entrepreneurial side of it. If you can do anything else and, be happy, do that. Cause like, if you wanted like a sure way to make money, filmmaking's definitely not, man. Definitely not. Okay. And then, I had another, question. He asked me outside of YouTube, Filmmaker in Africa. He asked, what genres for a low budget African film, make it and get noticed by giant streaming services like Amazon. We have stories to tell, but most indie filmmakers are not competing on the platforms you recommend because little or no eyes are given to our unique stories. Man, I really wish I had a better answer for you, but truth of the matter is, man, I'm in the US. I'm an American filmmaker. You know, I release American films mostly for the American market. I don't have a great answer for you. In general, with low budget stuff, action and horror tend to travel well. Comedy, not so much. Drama, not so much. But then again, there are exceptions. So I really do wish I had a better answer, but I don't. All right, so let's see here. Oh, and then Andrew followed up. Thanks. To elaborate, there's not a lot of room for trial and error for us micro budget filmmakers. Maximizing audience and making money is the key to my question. Okay, well, yeah, honestly, I did have another part of that answer, which I kind of slipped my mind. So for me, the major components, for a movie's success, there are four major components. There is the movie itself, how good it is or how good it is to a certain audience. There's the marketability of the movie, and there is the quality of your marketing. And then there's how you choose to put it out. So to me, success of a film, just like the filmmakers I talked about before, they were successful because they had marketable, like stuff that resonated in the market, resonated with a specific audience. They knew how to reach that audience, but they used different methods to get there. So like I said, the one used paid Facebook ads, and I think they were spending $400 or $500 a month, and they had a golf comedy. The other filmmaker had a comedy. It was like a black, kind of like a hood comedy. And, they focused their marketing mostly on Facebook, almost all organic. They created their own group. It just took off. They're just really good at the marketing. And, I've done many, many videos, on marketing and, the steps that I take when I'm marketing my films, check out some of those. But for me, it really does come down to number one, the movie itself. Number two, the marketability and marketing, All right, so I have an answer or a question from Ronaldo. I use FilmHub most of the time. I can't use Amazon Prime. Oh, do they not allow you to upload Amazon there? So the thing with Amazon these days is they stopped taking independent film submissions for a little bit, and then they opened it back up, but it's only for TVOD, meaning rental and purchase. You won't be on Amazon Prime. Like right now in the US at least, we can upload a movie to Amazon on our own, but it's only good for rental and purchase. Actually, the $100,000 like golf comedy thing I was talking about, that's where they earned the bulk of their money. They uploaded themselves to Amazon, pushed the TVOD traffic there, and then they did the rest of the platforms with FilmHub. So they split it. And, to this date, at least, I think as far as they're concerned, they haven't made a lot off of the FilmHub ones. But again, it's year one. Like over its lifetime, they'll see more revenue from FilmHub. But you are absolutely right by saying it's unpredictable. It's all unpredictable, and I know I almost shoot myself in the foot doing a channel on distribution and marketing, and this is what you do, because the truth of the matter is we don't know what to do. We can do all of these things, and maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. It's tough. Filmmaking's tough. All right, Z-Dog. My movie was picked up by FilmHub, by Amazon Prime Video so far. How long will it take to pop up on their site? And one last question, how long will it take other channels to pick my movie up? Oh, I was actually going to cover this in my regular thing, but let's go ahead and do it. So it really and this is what people get confused. Like if they get a delay and they've uploaded through FilmHub, they start blaming FilmHub, and it really has absolutely nothing to do with FilmHub. All the wait times have to do with the individual platforms, and those wait times are ever changing. So in the past 4 years, Amazon has been all over the place. 4 years ago, I'd upload a title, it'd pass QC in a couple of days, it would be up in like a week. you know, and then, a few months in, then it was taking like 3 weeks to get done. And then it was taking a month. And then it would drop back down. It would take a week again. And then 2 months later, it would take 2 months. Now, in the last year, I think time frames have pretty much across the board went up. I have not personally submitted directly to Amazon myself in a while, but I heard a story in my distribution group, several. One filmmaker was saying they got up in like three or 4 weeks, and another who submitted right around the same time, it took him 12, like 12 weeks between submission and when it went live, and then the only extra added delay with FilmHUB is you have to pass their QC first, but that's always pretty quick. Like you submit to FilmHUB, the longest I've ever waited for a QC pass on FilmHUB is like 2 weeks. And that was because like I failed once or twice and had to fix something. But I know it's not a good answer, but overall, man, you don't know, and it's ever changing. And it's always dependent on the streaming platform themselves. Sometimes they're slammed and it takes longer, or maybe they're not taking projects that particular week, or whatever it is, we don't know. But it's really hard to predict that, which it makes releasing hard on streaming. You're not going to get an advanced release date. It's going to get up when it's up. It's really tough. I do actions and revenge stories because they're universal. Yeah, absolutely. Action travels well pretty much everywhere. Horror kind of does the same thing. I think if you have a really physical, like broad comedy stuff, like that can work. It just, it depends. For the African guy, try a YouTube channel, just little stories to get monetized that will get legs. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. And, YouTube really has started to become a more feasible avenue for feature film releases. Now, of course, if you're doing it on your own, your channel has to be monetized first and all of that. But there's all of these like really large channels now that they call MCNs, multi-channel networks, and they pick up movies in bulk. Now, usually they're pretty much, you have to go through a distributor or an aggregator to get to them. But a lot of them do have contact info. I contacted one last year actually about a project, and it's up there now. And on YouTube, and I'm just talking for myself right now, I've had titles earning, nothing. and I've had titles, up to, I think the most I've ever made on YouTube in a month is like $4,000 off a single movie, but that was unique. It basically went viral. And typically though, like my documentary titles, 40 or 50 bucks a month sometimes. But streaming distribution, if you just keep fracturing stuff out, more and more platforms, you make 50 bucks here, you make 20 bucks there. We're talking about FilmHUB. I make about 300 bucks a month on off Hoopla now, because it's like the library system, and you get like 80 cents every time somebody looks at your movie. And on collectively my titles see about 300 bucks a month. So divide 300 by 50 or 60, and you'll understand, like, it's a low amount. But that more and more platforms that do that, Plex TV, I make about the same, 300 or 400 a month, but it's collectively, the movies aren't making any more than 20, 30 bucks a piece, sometimes much less. But more and more and more and more avenues to put the things up. And what's happening these days too, people say, well, if it's up everywhere, isn't it hurting it on Tubi? And it's not, man. These systems, for the most part, are closed ecosystems. The people that are really consuming content on Tubi, they're watching Tubi. People that are watching Plex are watching Plex, so on and so forth. Most people are not, they have one or two platforms that they search for new things on. And then, the only time they might go outside of that is if they're looking for something in particular and it's only on Netflix or only on Amazon or, whatever it is. But as far as indie stuff goes, discoverability is a huge thing. And, we're looking to go on platforms where the people are watching our particular types of movies, if that makes any sense. All right. Do you see returns through Facebook ads and then target the ads to specific groups? Are these returns good. And by returns, I mean click-throughs. So I have had like moderate success with Facebook ads. I don't do a lot of high cost ads. Typically when I have a new movie come out, I'll spend anywhere from like $1 to $10 a day for like the first 90 days on it. And then if within that time frame it's delivering like at a really good click-through rate, I may increase that. And then I'll kind of look and see what the returns are the following month. And if they're good and like way above what I'm putting in, I'll either keep that spend or I might spend a little more. I do tend to get pretty good click-through rates on my stuff. And yes, I believe that's because I'm specifically targeting. Although I've been getting emails from Facebook lately saying that people are starting to have more success by not doing very specific targeting and letting Facebook's algorithm figure it out. I personally don't trust it. So I've tried it on a few. But so far I haven't got click-throughs like as low as the ones that I do on my own. So like I have one $1 a day ad. That same ad has been running for like 4 years now. And, it delivers at like 0.00005, a click through, it's crazy. And I have increased it, like the spend on it a few times, but I think with Facebook ads or with any paid ads, I think you hit a ceiling at a certain point where spending more just doesn't help you. Like the click-through rate stayed low, but my overall returns didn't really increase. So like if I was spending any more than say like $200 a month, like that's about the amount where my growth would stop. And then at a certain point that kind of got lower and lower to the point where now I'm just, I just leave it at $1 and leave it going. But that, that movie's 4 years old and it's still on the place. I'm sending people to Amazon for rentals. And to this day, that title has never dropped below $60 a month, and I spend 30 on it. So, I have no, direct, because you can't do pixel stuff on Amazon. So I have no direct proof that they actually, that the click-throughs did the purchase, but the anecdotal evidence would suggest that it's successful. So I leave it going. But yeah, I do think Facebook's ads are successful. Actually, I was talking about earlier about the filmmaker that did the $100,000 on TVOD, and they put that, a lot of it, squarely on the fact that they were doing successful Facebook ads on it, and they were running their ads for like between $400 and $600 a month. And as far as I know, they're still doing it like through the first year, and they've always seen like $10,000 months or $8,000 months. Like they never fell below the point where they thought the ad spend was a waste. So I think if you're doing it right and for the right project, another thing to keep in mind is Facebook is it's an older audience. Like if your movie is targeting like kids, like Gen Y or Gen Z, Facebook might not be the place to run ads, because like they're not there. But like for me, for example, I do a lot of documentaries, and my documentaries focus on a lot of things that older people in their late 30s and 40s are into, so in 50s, 60s. So Facebook does well for me, so that depends on where you're going. Like if I had something that was targeting like teens or people in their early 20s, I would probably be more on TikTok and like figuring out how to do like paid stuff there, But anyway, but in short, I think Facebook ads are good, generally speaking. Thanks for making the FilmHUB videos you made. It helped me submit my animated short film and get it. Oh, nice. I'd like to hear that. See, like when I do this channel, like, and people think for attention or like for money, like, trust me, I'm not making much money on this channel, off the filmmaking videos. I probably, like on average, I see about $200 a month, and I do, I don't know what, like 3 videos a week, is definitely not worth the money that I'm making. I do it because I do like sharing knowledge. Like I've been in the independent film business now for 20 something years, or 20, no, you know what? It's exactly 20 years this year. I made my first feature in 2003, summer of 2003. Actually, don't guess, it'll be 1 year this summer. 20 years, but I usually say 20 years. Anyway, I've been doing it for a long time, and I struggled for years, and I had good years and bad years, doing freelance and whatnot and making movies. I've directed so many now, and I'd have some would do really well, or some that would do well but not well for me because I got paid a little bit up front for them, stuff like that. So it took me really until the last 4 years before I could really like solely make my living from the exhibition of my films. Now, I've been making a living as a filmmaker for like a decade, but that's working for others, doing paid work, editing, directing for others. Over the past 5 years, I've exclusively worked for myself. But it took me whatever 15 years to get there, and I'm hoping that by sharing some of this stuff, that other people can look at it and do these kind of things faster. Like hopefully it won't take them 15 years. And things change so fast. Like doing this channel also helps me just like keep up on what's going on, because it changes. I mean, my business model in the last 3 years has like changed, I don't know, half a dozen times, which I'll get into a little bit later. With the advancement of technology for us, how do you feel about what can be done with sci-fi? I think horror and sci-fi go hand in hand. Yes, I think sci-fi is a wide open thing for micro budget films right now, for filmmakers that have a background that they can either do the effect stuff themselves or know somebody that can. And yeah, it's gotten cheaper and cheaper. I would say the same thing kind of holds true of animation. Like I was running an animation company about God, it's been 6 years ago now, and even then, with 2D animation, it was amazing what you could get done in a month for very little money. And I would imagine it just gets cheaper and cheaper, and, like the post-production advances have just been crazy. Like, I'm going to talk about Adobe's audio cleanup for a minute. And I am not sponsored or affiliated with Adobe. I just really like this. I was honestly about ready to give up on Adobe because I was getting really irritated with, Premiere updates and, some stuff like the new export windows, which I have gotten used to, but I didn't like them at first. I was getting ready to make the jump to Resolve, and they opened up. The two reasons I don't: one is I really do use the connections between the programs too much. Like when I edit, I have After Effects open, I'm using Photoshop, I'm using them directly connected. So like Adobe is just kind of, it's my thing, it's my package. So I'm not going to leave it. But they just released this AI audio cleanup thing, and audio cleanup's a little misleading because like I mentioned it a couple times on Facebook. I was like, yeah, they have this new audio cleanup, and people are like, oh, Resolve has one, and blah blah blah. It is nothing like Resolve's. This thing, like, it actually like it takes the waveform and it actually builds upon it. Like if you have a piece of audio that was recorded like on an iPhone, and as long as the voice is clear, but like say it's like tinty and like kind of far away from the phone and just like sounds like it was recorded in a bathtub, you can put it through that AI and it makes it sound like it was recorded in a studio with pretty much like a 90% accuracy rate. It is freaking incredible. I had an interview for a documentary I shot almost 2 years ago. We drove all the way to Philly from Atlanta to do it. Shot the interview, and through some technical mistakes that were my fault, the audio did not come out. So all I had was the camera audio, and the camera was about 6 feet away from him. So you know what that sounds like. It's tinty. Actually, sounds like this, right? Something like that. And anyway, so it was just unusable. Couldn't do it. Couldn't put it out. And they released this update, whatever, like 3 weeks ago. And I was like, what, I'm going to try it. So I put that through the audio updater, and pristine. Like it sounds like it was recorded in a sound studio. It is amazing. And then I took it because this plugin was made for podcasts, but I'm just finishing up post on Craving. So I took my dialogue stems in like 15-minute increments and exported them and ran them through that. And I mean, it sounds great. It actually sounds too good. Like some of it sounds like ADR. So what I started doing was taking the cleaned up clip and laying it underneath the regular clip, and then turn the regular clip down so it still has some of that live element to it. And it's the best dialogue sound I've ever had in a movie. Anyway, brought to you by Adobe. Crazy Rock. I was told by FilmHUB the load times go live are 2 to 12 weeks. Yeah, that's probably about right. But again, if they're telling something like that, they're talking in generalities, and you just know. I've known wait times to go over 12 weeks. It just totally depends on the platform you're going to and what their situation is, and the movie itself. Like, maybe it takes you a couple times to pass QC. All right. Oh, Aaron Carlson, you sweetheart. Amazon Prime has been very selective with indie films have of late, especially documentaries. Ours was selected and then declined by them recently. Any new insights on where that platform is going with docs? No, to be honest, as much as I do. Your experience kind of echoes mine. The only reason I've got a few more through is because, well, I have a few more, So like I submitted, oh gosh, I've had like, in this last year, I submitted 4 new documentaries to FilmHUB, and of the 4, 3 were selected and got onto Amazon, and 1 didn't. So it just depends, man. I wish I did know more. Can you put a specific release date when releasing with FilmHUBs for channels? Not really, man. You can try. You can try to set a, like you can tell FilmHUB, hey, I don't want this film to go live until a certain date, but there's no way to know that it'll be processed in that time. So it's very difficult. So my whole thing about release dates, and I've said this in videos, I'm going to say it again, guys, we're in a completely new kind of like distribution landscape. And this isn't just for little movies. It's going to happen on bigger ones too. Now, when you release a bigger movie through a studio, they got some pull. They can go to Amazon and say, hey, this movie, we want to come out on August 14th. And, Amazon say, hey, okay, cool. But for independent films and smaller distributors, you can't dictate that. So like our whole release, methodology and how we market and how we think about marketing and how we think about releasing, it needs to change. That whole like, I'm gonna pick a date, August 14th. We're gonna release on August 14th, and then I try to push all my traffic in advance to August 14th. That's just done. Unless you're doing it off your website or like Vimeo or something like that, that's done. And truthfully, and this is a little bit my opinion, but this is my opinion based on my educated opinion. Pre-release promotion, about 90% of it is wasted time. It is wasted time, on small independent films. There are just too many movies out there. There are too many things for people to watch. So say like you do this like crazy, like organic, marketing campaign because your movie is going to come out on August 20th, and you're promoting in, July, and you're like, yeah, we're coming on August 20th, and you're promoting like 2 weeks out in August. We're coming out on 20th, and somebody sees that on social media, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, that looks cool. I'll see that. When's it come out? August 20th. Okay, maybe I'll remember. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard to get eyeballs on our films when we want to promote. We want that promotion to be able to take people right then and there to either watch it or purchase it. If not, it's pretty much wasted time. That whole like now building an audience in advance, like you can do general audience building. So like what I do, like, I have Craving is going to be coming out in probably somewhere in between like March and April. I don't know. So like starting in February, I will start doing some promotion stuff. Like I'll start submitting it to outlets for review and stuff like that. But each and every one of them, I just contact them individually, and I'm like, hey, if you can, please hold this review until I let you know. And then I let them know when the movie comes out, and they release the review. Like that's what I try to do. And if they won't do that and just want to release the review, I let them. If they absolutely need a release date, I do my best guess, and I say, yeah, it's going to be out March 17th. And roll the dice. But before the movie actually releases, I'll do very little like direct promotion for that movie. Like all of the behind the scenes clips and all the trailers and all of that, I'll hold it till it's out or it's like days from being out. Like I won't push none of it. Like I see filmmakers all the time, like indie filmmakers, they'll finish their movie, and then they start just inundating with stuff. Here's the trailer, here's this, here's that, and then the movie comes out 4 months later, and they got nothing left to promote. Like nothing new. And to me, that's wasted. They just wasted all of that material. And that's different than how it used to be. And this has happened because the marketplace is fractured. There's more content in there. People have more choices. It's easier to get the movies out. More people are making movies. Like we just have to train ourselves to think of marketing different. We're not making movies in the 90s or the 2000s anymore. It's a new landscape, and we have to embrace that. Sorry, man, that was kind of a little rant, right? All right. Andrew asked, generally speaking, from what platform do you make the most money on a consistent basis? And you ask critics to review your films. So for me, and this is going to differ for everybody in different movies, I still, even with the rate drops and everything, I tend to see the most money from Amazon. Now, a lot of this is because I was doing primarily documentaries over the past 4 years. And, out of the, 50, 60 films that I own rights to, like probably 80% of those are documentaries. And the documentaries that I make tend to do better on Amazon. Now, from other filmmakers, and I've seen lots of numbers, one of the distributors I work with releases numbers from other filmmakers, and they're, most filmmakers are making more money on Tubi right now than anywhere else. Generally speaking, there are exceptions. Like I said, I just did the two filmmakers. You had the TVOD guys on Amazon; they made 100,000. You had the Tubi guy; he made 100,000. But by and large, most filmmakers, indie filmmakers, are making more money off of Tubi than anywhere else. And that's not necessarily because Tubi pays more money. That's just because that's where more people are watching those kind of movies. And I think it's because it's AVOD and it's for free, and it's not subscription based, and you're getting paid based on how many people see the ads or impressions or whatever. But you're getting exponentially more eyeballs on it there, even though it's a relatively smaller platform than say Amazon. Independent stuff tends to do better there. It's just in general. If you go with a distributor, can you pick a release date? It depends on the distributor. There are some that still do it, but most of them have to do it so far in advance. It's the same thing that I just talked about earlier. You just, like if you're doing Amazon on your own and you want to make sure that it's going to be there, you just set the release date thing for 3 months out. Most of these distributors are going to be giving you windows of 6 months, for streaming release. Now, if it's a distributor that does physical media, that's a little bit different. They could set a release date for that. Most of them that I know these days are not setting streaming release dates, but they do set physical release dates, and that's where they push their initial promotion. But as we all know, physical media is dwindling. So I really don't put my eggs in that basket very often. There still is money to be made from it, do not get me wrong, but every year it's going to go down, it's going to go down, it's going to go down. My film was an animated experimental film, which usually I thought wasn't a big market, but ever since the pandemic, I noticed experimental films are very popular. Yeah, the thing is, I was talking earlier in general about, some popular genres, and those are generalities. What's really happening with indie films that are really taking off, usually the ones that really take off are not, super broad, or they don't appeal to a broad amount of people. That it's a specific group. And the more specific that group is, the easier it is to target them. I mean, one of the main reasons I switched to documentaries, in 2019 was it's really easy to target an audience for a documentary. if I make a dog rescue documentary and I'm, doing up paid ads, I start looking for people that are into dog rescues, people that like dogs, people that like animals, people that, you know what I mean? And then if you're doing organic marketing, I start joining Facebook groups that are about dog rescues or dog lovers, like stuff like that. And I start interacting with the people and then eventually, pushing them towards the movie. But yeah, I do think an independent film like niching down is a really valid approach. But you can also, do the general stuff too. Like, I just made, Craving, and it's a monster movie. It's not a super specific genre. I mean, yes, I did do a little genre mashup in it, and I did cast it pretty diversely, but I did a movie that I like, that I think that there is market potential for, and my projections for it are pretty high. But we'll see what happens. I'll be talking a lot more about Craving and its release over the next year. Like I said, I think Tubi pays the most in my experience. Not sure how they pay. So I am actually prepping a whole video about how Tubi pays, but in short, it's AVOD. You're paid by the advertisers. So, and they pay based on like the number of people that view their ads or that click on their ads. I do think that there is some like pay for impression stuff, but it's, as far as I know anyway, it is not by view, it's not by hour. It's like how many like commercials are viewed. So the rates are not higher than anywhere. I mean, YouTube probably has higher CPMs. It's just a matter of the right audiences watching the movie. Like, for example, one genre that's been killing on Tubi, a really general genre, is like black made, like female focused drama. Like they're just killing it. There's a Facebook group called Best New Tubi Movies, and created by Devin Bray, who directed PP Long Gone. They have over 100,000 members, and I mean, there's posts in there with thousands of shares, and it's primarily black filmmakers making black movies. It's an underserved audience, because I think it's doing really well there, because like Hollywood isn't making them. Like, how many movies do you see like in the theaters that feature like an all black cast from like a lower socioeconomic background, or feature like lead women? Like, if you take away Tyler Perry and a couple other famous people, where are those movies? They're on Tubi, and they're doing really well because of it. And I think other filmmakers and other milieus can think about it like that. Like, like if I'm a white dude doing a horror movie, what kind of horror movie can I do that's not, that's a little more underserved, whether that's with the type of people in it or, what it's about, But anyway, yeah, the Tubi TV is about the best. What is the best way amount to budget per diems for talent, and also for budgeting crowdfunding fees and taxes? That's really specific. And it's going to be, Brian, that's going to be super specific based on your particular project. I personally, like when I'm doing per diems on a indie movie, because like usually the actors are getting paid like on my movies between $200 and $300 a day, and I almost exclusively hire people locally. So like I don't normally even do per diems. If I have somebody from out of town, 20, $50 maybe on top of that, and travel, but that's about it. And then as far as scheduling, budgeting, crowdfunding fees and taxes, well, the crowdfunders take care of the fees themselves. They take it right out. You never see it. And then as far as taxes, I always, for everything I'm doing, I always put back like, was it 25%? But I have a money guy that does that for me now. So, and I've only really crowdfunded myself one movie that I'm responsible for, which is Craving, and somebody else is doing the tax stuff on that. Mackenzie Alvarez asks, will Craving do any film festivals? Most likely no. And I am not against film festivals. I don't think this particular one, it would help me too much. I think it's a good movie. I think we'd rack up some wins and some laurels, and I think it would take a year to run that thing. And then at the end of the day, I think it would make exactly the same amount of money, or relatively a little bit more. Unless you're getting into really big high tier festivals, Sundance, stuff like that, it's not really going to help you with distribution. So for me, I don't see much use for it. Now, that said, if I had finished the movie a little bit faster, I shot it. We shot most of it back in August, and my plan was to have post production done by September. I might have tried to hit some festivals, between January and March, just for like a premiere, see what happens or see where it gets in. But it just the timing didn't work out. We're still finishing, so I just no. Thank you so much, Horrorcash. So yeah, if you guys, like I said earlier, I don't make a ton of money doing this. If you guys want to throw up a super chat or something like that and throw a few bucks in there, it's really appreciated. Anything that this channel makes, it just goes right back into the channel. Oh, this is a really good question. What do you think the next 10 years of indie film is going to look like? Unfortunately, it's going to be a pretty short question, short answer. I have absolutely no clue, man. I don't know what it's going to look like 1 year from now. Like if you watch my channel regularly, like I change my tact, like once every 6 months, sometimes more. It is, and because like technology is changing, the way people are watching movies is changing. The pandemic changed a lot of stuff. Oh man, but I do think generally, like things are getting easier and easier to make higher and higher quality stuff. So I do think more and more people are going to be making movies. I think there's going to be more high quality content. I think competition is going to be rougher. Um, I think like what I've seen happen in the last 4 years is like the intrinsic value of individual movies is becoming lower, because there's more of them. There's more places to watch them. They're just worth less. There are individual movies that, break out, do really well, both on the indie level and studio level. But in general, like independently anyway, what things are making is just it's getting lower. And unless something drastic happens that changes that, like like socialization of like payment, like some people are advocating for like having a set rate, like even a government enforced set rate by platforms that they have to pay this, and it can never get lower because it just keeps getting lower and lower. I mean, look at Amazon, they were paying close to 20 cents an hour, 4 years ago, and then 12 cents and then 8 cents, and you can still make up to 12 cents, but they base it on this like crazy nebulous CER ranking, which nobody can understand or explain. And most, like over 60%, probably well over 60%, probably over 80% of independent films are making 1 penny per hour on Amazon Prime, the free with Prime streaming. It's just, and it'll probably get lower. uh, where do you think the new frontier for finding financing will bear in the future? I don't think there's ever people ask about financing all the time. Like, how do you find film financing? How do I find film financing? And there's so many different ways. I mean, and I've never like went to a financing convention or where financiers hang out or anything like that. Every single thing I've ever I've got financed through producers I knew or people that I met or people that I met doing something else, like through like basic networking or crowdfunding. you know I don't think that there's any one new thing that's going to come up and be the way to finance. I think it's always going to be fractured, and there's going to be somebody that found an angel investor for $1 million, and there's going to be somebody that went and did the grants, and there's going to be somebody that went to film festivals and met somebody. A thousand different ways. Does what you're talking about work for shorts as well, or just docs and features? As far as monetizing, just docs and features. I mean, there are ways to make money with shorts, but to be honest, I have very little experience with that. I've made a couple of shorts, but never like for monetization purposes. As far as I'm concerned, shorts are help you build an audience, or provide a proof of concept for something bigger you're trying to put together. I don't know of very many people that have made much money off of shorts. There's exceptions for sure, but I think generally speaking, shorts are very, very hard to monetize, you know. All right, Bill Conrad has commented, going back to what you said earlier and the massive influx of new indie projects coming out, do you think that self-distribution with the help of, say, FilmHUB and using the classic shady distributor model has contributed to lower overall profits for indie projects? Without the old school gatekeepers holding the door, there's a lot of mixed quality content vying for attention. I mean, that is a point. But I mean, that's um yeah, honestly, that is a part of it. That is a part of the oversaturation. There is a lot of bad quality content vying for attention, but honestly, that genie's out of the bottle. That's not changing. And honestly, like I don't concentrate or even worry about that at all because it's completely outside of my control. All I can do and all we can do as individual filmmakers is make the best movie we can, market it the best we can, and hope for the best, and then, we can, lay blame some other time. My problem with Tubi is I don't want ads to play. So yeah, a lot of people don't. But honestly, man, AVOD is a huge market right now, and they're doing really well. And I personally, I love my movies, and I want my movies to be seen in the most optimal manner possible. But I also want to make a living, so I do AVOD. Now, that is not to say that you cannot not make a living not using AVOD. It just makes it harder. Like, it's so hard to actually make a living, making films off the exhibition of them. It's so hard. I just don't believe in setting up roadblocks for us to make it harder. And AVOD is somewhere right now, anyway, that is, in general, people are doing better on. What do you do for your networking? Honestly, like the last 3-4 years, I am almost exclusively on social media. Like I haven't been out in the world much since the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, I just said I don't do film festivals. I don't put my films in film festivals, but I go to film festivals. I like checking them out. I like speaking on panels on them. Since I've been doing this channel, I get asked to do festivals a lot, and when I can, I try and do it. So I network like that. I create groups on Facebook. Like I have a filmmaking and indie filmmaking group general. So I'll do a little networking in there. I have a distribution and marketing group. I do some in there. And I also use those to find people to interview for my channel. And I do some networking like that. I'm actually talking to a producer right now that I had interviewed on my channel previously that's helping me put together a really big project in 2023. So, but for me, it's like mostly social media stuff. Hey, Brett. Yeah, I just got into this a little ways back. Yeah, Tubi is pretty much number one. Roku channel has been going up for me, but it's still low in the running. For me personally, I'm not talking about general things. Amazon is still number one for me, followed by Tubi, followed by probably YouTube, and then it might be Roku after that. But not the Roku channel, but different Roku channels. Like I just signed a direct deal with StreamGo Media, and they do a lot of different various Roku channels, and I'm starting to see some pretty good returns there. I am. What else has been coming up? Plex has come up a little bit for me in the last year. Like it's still not huge. We're talking like, $20-$30 a project, but it's more. And then I see some decent on Hoopla, and but Amazon, Tubi are still like the main ones. And I do think with the MCNs, the multinational channels becoming more and more prevalent on YouTube, as long as you have a project that's like advertiser friendly, I think YouTube is going to be it's going to be a contender. Like it already is. There are distributors that are already like, it's maybe not their number one, but it's like just below Tubi and Amazon. Facebook is a great place to meet people, look for local mixers, maybe even throw one yourself and invite local film community. Reddit is also a good place to connect with people. Social media is a great tool for networking. Absolutely. And I should have mentioned Reddit. honestly, in the past 2 years, I've kind of fallen off of Reddit. I was doing it a lot when I first started this channel, and it helped a lot with building my initial audience here. I'm not a huge Reddit person, so it hasn't been great for me. But I find that actually, I think that's the #1 tip for like what social media platform is the best for promotion. And I think I've said this in videos. It's whatever platform you're best at. You know what I mean? So like I overall see the most luck through networking, for ads, for promotion, for everything through Facebook, because Facebook is what I have the most experience with. Like I know how to work Facebook, you know? And then second is probably Instagram, and then Twitter, or at least it was Twitter, maybe not anymore. And then I'm just starting to try to figure out TikTok. I'm now posting videos on TikTok. You know, I'm definitely not any kind of a following there yet, but I'm working on it, you know. And whenever I create a new project, you know, I give it a TikTok and an Instagram and a Facebook, but I pretty much stick to those three myself because they're what I'm good at. If you're better at something else, you know, that might be the thing for you. If you have 100,000 people on LinkedIn and you get a ton of engagement on LinkedIn, maybe LinkedIn is your platform, you know. It's whatever you're good at. Let's see. Hey, Steve, how's it going, man? How close are the earnings on FilmHUB when compared to the insights? I know they're going to be exact, but are they close? Yeah, man, I don't want to say they're dead on, but they're really close. The only thing to keep in mind is insights are like, you know, their 20% hasn't been taken out yet. So like if they say the movie earned $10,000, you know, you're going to see $8,000 of that. You know what I mean? But other than that, at least I think, don't actually, you know what, that may have changed. Don't hold me to that. If you want to know for sure, ask them. But anyway, it's pretty close. Like if I see on there that I've made you know, $20,000 in a month, you know, 3 months later, whatever it is, when the platform's paying, I see that money, you know. And it's pretty damn close. I've never had a huge discrepancy, but to be 100% honest, like in the last probably year, I don't really even look anymore. You know, I've been using FilmHUB now for like 4 years. I've grown to trust them. So I glance at my insights, you know, month to month, or, you know, if I'm looking to see how ads are performing, but then when I get my pay, I'm not going back and cross-referencing it anymore. Oh yeah, Brian. Yeah, podcasts, man. Yeah, podcasts, YouTube channels. Honestly, one of the best things I ever did for learning about marketing was starting this freaking YouTube channel. Now, my audience for my documentaries and movies is completely different than the people that watch this YouTube channel. But what this has taught me to do is like, man, like when you're building a YouTube channel, it's all like basic marketing, and you start watching all these videos from YouTubers talking about how to build channels and how to retain an audience, and a lot of that crap you can directly apply to like your filmmaking and like how you promote on Amazon, or, you know, because it's all marketing 101 stuff. And I learned so much through that, you know, through watching people like, you know, Catherine Manning back when she was doing, you know, YouTube building videos, Nick Nimmin. There's a new one. What's that dude's name? Channel Makers. It's like, I still watch that stuff, you know, and I've grown. There's certain people that I follow, probably like people for me, they probably got the information they need, but they like watching because they like the person. But anyway, I learned so much about marketing and like building up things. I mean, and actually my whole like business model, like moving into documentaries and like all of that, it all kind of coincides with when I started the YouTube channel. Like, you know, that it really changed things for me. Crowdfunding, if you can run a successful crowdfunding campaign, you can market a movie. Because like I've learned like I just said, I learned a lot about marketing from the YouTube channel. The second thing that I learned a ton about marketing on is from prepping to do crowdfunding. Now, I just did the Craving crowdfunder last year, but like 4 years ago, I was thinking about doing one for another project, and hired a guy, a consultant, Justin Giddings, the Kickstarter guy. And you know, you pay him a certain amount of money and you get this crowdfunding course. And I have used that crowdfunding course. I never directly used it for a crowdfunder, but I've used those techniques for almost everything that I market. Like I have a marketing video on here called like a 4-step marketing plan or something like that. And I mean, it's my own thing, but a lot of that, the foundation was based on the stuff I learned in the crowdfunding course. Crowdfunding, I mean, at the end of the day, think about it. Crowdfunding is you're just trying to get people to go to a site and make a purchase. You know, it's basic, it's marketing, you know? And yeah, it was great. Are you offering personalized advice for a fee? Do you have any courses that we could sign up for? I have been thinking about doing courses. I used to do consultations, but to be absolutely honest, I just do not have the bandwidth for it right now. You know, I would have to, I would have to charge an astronomical amount to make it worth the time. And I just don't want to charge struggling filmmakers, you know, $1,000 for a consultation, you know? So right now I'm not, I may at some point start doing that again. Um, as far as the courses thing, I mean, you can find pretty much everything that I've ever said right here on this channel. And you know, I would almost feel bad about like recharging for the same information, just packaged in a different way. But it is something that I have thought about. We'll see. Do action films do well on AVOD? I think action films do well everywhere. I think it's a really good, if you can do something good, like I think action is a really good genre to get into for indie films. Like I know a filmmaker right now that they went all in on action movies. He made one, and you know, and it's not even finished yet. I think he's still editing it, but like the shoot went so well that like him and the guy that helps him produce them, they're doing like 3. I think they're doing 2 sequels for it. Anyway, yeah, I think action stuff's a really good way to go. Oh, thank you, Chris. I really do appreciate it, guys. I appreciate the super chats. Like I've said many times, I do not make a ton of money on this channel, and every little bit it does help me to make this a little less, you know, like painful in my wallet for the time I got to take to do it. But do not feel obligated. No one is obligated. How do you feel about offering pre-sale DVDs before a film is completed as a way of fundraising? Would that take away from the success of the film? You know, it could. And to be honest, I personally wouldn't do it. Like in our crowdfunder, for example, I've just had to start updating our contributors on it, because initially I was like, yeah, we're going to finish the film, and you know, I'll send the DVDs as soon as it's done. But you know, like the distributor, they're okay with it getting out a little bit before the movie's out, but they don't want it out too far in advance. And there's some distributors that will not want it out at all, you know, so it could affect your distribution if you were doing it. But you know, and the other thing about, you know, like DVDs or Blu-rays has a funding source, even for crowdfunders. The only reason I even offered them on Craving was because it was a horror movie, and you know, horror fans really do, excuse me, crave physical media. So so I did it, but financially, I'll be straight honest, it's really not worth it. Like, because you know, when you're doing the Blu-rays for crowdfunding, you got to worry about your authoring, you got to worry about your replication. More importantly, you got to worry about shipping. You know, at the end of the day, to make it any kind of like money that you're putting into the movie, like, you know, you got to charge $50-$60 for that Blu-ray for that to be anything. You know, on Craving, like I said, we raised $52,000, so well, 64 total for the campaign. And probably, I'm guessing maybe, well, I'll just do the math right now. We sold right around 100 Blu-rays at $60 a pop, and so 60 by 100 was at 6,000. So we raised, is that right? Fuck, my math sucks. Anyway, $6,000 out of 60, you know, was that. And I'm going to spend a month of my time in, you know, February or March authoring that crap, packaging that crap, sending that crap. And I don't want to sound ungrateful about it, but at the end of the day, like the next crowdfunder I do, I probably will not have physical media as part of it. All right, Tom. AVOD is really the only place other than Blu-ray that I make money for my films. I'm putting together 3 new features at various budget ranges from 2 million to 23, and the landscape is changing monthly. Yeah, he's right. You know, it changes all the time. Now, there are a lot of people, including myself, that are starting to see more money again on TVOD. Like, it's really weird, like the way things have went. Like 5 or 6 years ago, or maybe even a little bit longer, TVOD was pretty much like the thing. Like SVOD it was around, but it wasn't really like, it was kind of, it's where movies go to die. You know, like TVOD, and TVOD was number one, I would say, all the way up till about like 2017, or 16, 17. And then SVOD became like the main place where independent films were making money. And it was primarily SVOD on Amazon. And man, there was a time period like in 2017, the rates were higher. Man, like if I had as many movies as I have now, then I'd be rich. I mean, I would be beyond. I'd be a very wealthy man. You know, like for the same amount of work, I'm making a fraction of what I would have. 6 years ago. Anyway, non sequitur. Here's somebody. Oh, thank you for all the FilmHUB videos you do. Our movie is with them and has been delivered to platforms, with a couple of them being on Tubi. Yeah, I've been starting to get stuff on Apple TV as well. I haven't seen a lot of returns there yet. Right now it seems to me like it's really similar to what iTunes was before, which again, unless you had like a rabid fan base and were able to push a lot of people there, it's like a lot of indies never made much there. But Apple might be different, because especially the way it's set up. Like iTunes was just like a download system. Apple TV is like Amazon basically. So it could definitely be a thing. Would you do TVOD first before AVOD, or both at the same time? So when doing it, if you would have asked me this question even 6 months ago, I would have said just do them all at once. And if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said definitely window, do TVOD and then SVOD, then AVOD. Today, depending on your project, like something like Craving. So that movie was made for about 100K. When it comes out, like its initial window would ideally be TVOD. I do believe, because of the crowdfunding work I've done, because of the audience building I've done on that movie, I believe that I can push a lot of buyers to that movie in the first like 30, 60 days. So my hope anyway, and I'm having discussions with the distributor now, is that it'll be TVOD first, or an exclusive on a premium channel like such as Shudder, where you'll get most likely some kind of advance, or a guarantee for a certain amount of time that you're on their platform. And from what I understand, when you do deals like that, you can still do TVOD on top of it on other platforms like Amazon, just not AVOD or SVOD. But the window would be fairly short. So like if like Craving, for example, like if it came out in March and it was on TVOD, it would most likely be on AVOD within 3 or 4 weeks. The initial window would probably be pretty small, and I think that would be okay. But the truth of the matter is, like I've said before, I do think these things are closed ecosystems. It's like I have a documentary right now called "Don't Call Me Bigfoot." It's 3 or 4 years old, and it has primarily made most of its money on SVOD on Amazon. But the rates got less and less, and then it was making a little more on Tubi, then it was making a little more on YouTube. This year, I actually made more on TVOD, and it's 4 years old. So, it really depends on the project, and that is primarily through a paid ad, but a small cost paid ad. We're talking like $1 a day paid ad, but so yeah, it depends. It depends on the movie, and I also think in general, most movies these days, independent movies, the shotgun approach works. Now if the movie has done and the filmmaker has done their work ahead of time, and they've targeted their audience, and they're really good at marketing, then windowing is absolutely a way to go. Because if you know how to drive traffic to something and you're good at that, like, you're going to make exponentially more money on less clicks on TVOD than you will on AVOD or SVOD. The thing that makes AVOD and SVOD more attractive to most indie filmmakers is the discoverability there. So like, if you could drive, if you can drive 100 like pretty selectively targeted people to, say, Tubi or Amazon is going to start showing that thing on more people's feeds that are like those people that watched it in the first place. And that can create a snowball effect. I don't think that happens the same way with TVOD. So I kind of forget where I was going with that. But anyway, that was that. Thank you so much. I seriously super appreciate that. So what distributor options are there besides FilmHUB for independent filmmakers? So there's a ton of distributors. I'm always hesitant to give distribution recommendations, because like, here is the thing. I am gonna give you some distribution recommendations, but I want to preface this. How a movie does in a marketplace, whether it makes money or not, it usually has very little to do with the distributor. I talked about this at the beginning of the stream. The number one things for whether a movie makes money or not is the movie itself and how the movie is marketed. Okay, so I could say, so for me, for independent films, I really like indie rights. They have a really low back end. They take 20%. They charge no sales fees. They get the platforms that I need the movies that I like the movies to be on, where I make money, and they do give some support. And they're very trustworthy and transparent. So I love them. And so now I said that, and then you go release a movie with indie rights and you make $15 on it. And you're like, he said indie rights was good. Indie rights sucks. I didn't make no money. It's 99% not their fault. And I'm not like pointing fingers and saying it's our fault. There's just sometimes movies that just don't make money, and it's nobody's fault. Now, that's not to say that there are not shady distributors or people doing, bad stuff, but I would say more times than not, it's just the film just didn't hit, and it happens. It happens. So anyway, there's indie rights. I have not personally worked with Uncorked, but I've heard very good things about Uncorked. I've heard mixed things about Vision Films. I did an interview with one of their acquisition executives, and I really liked what they had to say. If I had a movie in the $250,000 range within the genres that they work in, I might consider them. I've honestly heard from filmmakers that have a lot of experience, in several movies. I've heard good things about Gravitas. If you redline the contract, like a lot of distributors, and the reason a lot of distributors get like a bad rep, or a predatory distributor rep where maybe it's not deserved, is most distributors, when they give you the first contract, it's a boilerplate contract, and that contract is always going to favor the distributor. The sales fees are always going to be higher, like all of the licensing are always going to be higher. Like, it's part of our job as filmmakers, or our lawyer's job, or whoever, to negotiate our contracts. So like, if you sign with somebody like Gravitas and you sign that boilerplate contract, yeah, you probably never will see a dime. But there are filmmakers that went in there, redline their contracts, and they're making bank with those guys. So anyway, those are a couple that I've heard of. But for smaller films, like under 100K or under, I might consider, but I would most likely always go with either indie rights or FilmHUB. Once I got outside of that, I might start considering other distributors. Mackenzie, do you like Shudder because it's an automatic audience in front of you? What makes you like Shudder over Tubi? Well, I don't prefer it over Tubi. I'm just talking about like a premiere place, and the reason being is it's like when people want to be on Netflix. Like, Netflix might not pay like what some people think they do, but like having a movie on Netflix for a couple of months is going to make you make exponentially more money when it gets to Tubi and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like more people have heard of it. Shudder's a premium horror site, and as far as I know, and I can't get into this too specifically, but they do offer, you know, upfront money for a specific period that the film is out, and it might not even be as much as what I make the first month on Tubi, but that first month on Tubi is still going to be there for me, you know, after the Shudder release, you know. So that's why I would think about starting there. And even if I wasn't starting on Shudder, like let's just say I don't get the deal with Shudder, I would still prefer to start on TVOD on like Amazon and get like, you know, 3 weeks to a month of rental purchase revenue before I moved it to free. And I know I just was talking about how the ecosystems are closed and whatnot. On this one, that's what I would try to do. On a smaller movie or like one of my documentaries, I blast them out. They hit all the places at the same time or as close to the same time as I can get. I hear you saying Tubi is the best way for reaching an audience with your feature. I live in Ireland and unfortunately can't watch a lot of cool projects. I see filmmakers announcing that they are on Tubi exclusively, which VOD platform do you feel covers all the bases? So this is a complicated question. And to be very honestly, you know, I'm a US based filmmaker. I make movies for a US based audience. There is a UK audience for it. And there are platforms like, you know, like Amazon UK where they can watch my movie. You know, my movies will eventually be on YouTube. They can watch them there. But I'm personally making movies mainly for a US audience, at least in the first year. And then everything else to me is icing on the cake. And I think most filmmakers, unless you're in a smaller ecosystem, you know, or a smaller, audience size for the country, like do the same, you know, that US is what I'm marketing to. You should package an ebook with everything you said. That way you could provide, you know, that's a really good idea. And at one point I was actually, because one thing that I'm a little behind the scenes thing here for my channel. You know I sound really off the cuff. Like now here I am, you can tell I'm, you know, stumbling and blah, 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 blah. But when I do my videos, I write those. Like every word is written. And then I teleprompter it and I perform it. So I have every single thing I've ever said on here in a document. And at one point, I have a friend who is a writer and we were talking about working on it together and he ended up just getting too busy. And I haven't put it together yet because it would need some drastic editing and, you know, like changes. And I just haven't had the time at this point, but it is something that I've been considering. And then the other thing about that though is, you know, like these videos go back like 3 years and there's stuff I said 3 years ago that's just not relevant anymore, you know. And you know, like I tend to do, as I'm kind of doing less videos these days, but it's a very good idea and it is something I'll think about. Oh wow, getting more questions. Dang, I thought I was done. What is your favorite camera? Does CDC sensors or mini DV have a future? So I don't know. I am not a tech guy. I'm not a gear guy. We shot Craving on the Blackmagic 6Ks, the pockets, I believe. I think they're great. But I don't even know what kind of sensor that camera has. So yeah, I am not a guy to ask camera or equipment stuff. Do I think mini DV has a future? Not really. I think there'll always be like a niche audience for like a specific look, but as far as like mainstream stuff goes, no. It's just one tech thing I will say. So like we shot Craving in 6K. It's not going to be broadcast anywhere in 6K, probably, maybe not ever. But the reason I even shoot things in 6K or 4K, you know, because a lot of places are not doing 4K. Most distribution and streaming outlets are still pretty much exclusively taking stuff in 1080p. You know, there are some now that have, you know, opened it up to 4K. FilmHUB is accepting 4K delivery now. But, you know, the only reason that I do it is to future proof the movies because, you know, 10 years from now, I have a feeling that, you know, 1080p is going to be like what, you know, mini DV was 5 years ago. So like if you go and try to deliver, a 4x3, mini DV shot thing, it's going to limit your distribution options drastically, you know, and, 10 years from now, I have a feeling that 1080p is going to limit your distribution sizes drastically. And so if I shoot something today and I have a 4K version of it, when that day comes that the platforms aren't accepting 1080p anymore, instead of just, purging my film, they can put up the 4K version. That is why I choose to shoot in, higher resolutions. Any positive experiences with Eximo? Eximo is one of those like incremental platforms for me. I've seen not a ton of revenue from them, but it's starting to collectively amount to a little bit. I think I had one title on there once that did like $100 in the month, and I was like, oh my gosh, Eximo is going to be great. Isn't it sad that we get excited if a platform sees $100 in a month? That is kind of sad, but that's the world we're living in. Let's see. Can you talk about filmmakers who send content to distributors that then do no advertising on their own? Sure. It's like this. If the distributor is charging money for promotion and doesn't do it, that's shifty, and there are many that do that. And on a smaller level, like on movies under 100K, most of the distributors that put these movies out that do charge sales fees and do some advertising, to my way of thinking, it is not worth it. I would rather work with a distributor that does little to no advertising and charges nothing for it and do it myself. I talked earlier about how, we're living in a different marketplace today than filmmaking was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, maybe an independent filmmaker could kind of get away with not doing their own marketing or not doing any of their own marketing. We're in a different time now. And unless you have a very robust budget, to hire somebody else to do it, you have to learn that stuff. You have to do it. We have to do it. So I would rather not pay for it, do it myself and know where the money is going, or hire someone directly and do it and not count on a distributor to do it. Because I don't know, I'll be real honest, I don't know any distributor that's putting out movies under, $100,000 that does marketing that's worth what they're charging. Not one of them, in my opinion. I think the best way is mostly through organic, engaged social media marketing, like free social media marketing. I think it's, and I think it's a mix. I think where filmmakers get tripped up with marketing and building audiences is, and it's sad. It's not a perfect world. I'm not saying this is how it should be, but we're at a point where when you're building an audience for a movie, it's almost equally about you as it is the movie, or the filmmaker. So, I am constantly on social media, and I don't mean like every day, hours a day. I spend a concentrated, 5-10 minutes a day building new audiences and building new connections. Before I launched my crowdfunder for Craving, and I have, I've done a lot of horror movies before, so I have a lot of horror movie friends, but I started seeking out new horror groups, and I started going into those groups, and once or twice a week I would go visit that group. I'd comment on a couple of people's posts. I would do a little basic networking. I would do a couple of posts myself, ask some relevant questions to the group, stuff like that. The thing is, with social media, it's all about engagement, and the more people that are engaging with your posts, the more people are going to see your future posts. You know what I mean? So I know it sounds like a lot, and it's like this long game thing, but there's no shortcut, unless you are really wealthy, you can spend a lot of money on promotion behind something. It's all slow build organic marketing. So I use Facebook a lot because it's what I'm familiar with. I go into groups that are relevant for the project that I'm getting ready to promote. I start getting engagement in those groups, and That's what I do, and then and friend people from those groups, because a lot of the groups won't let you post links to your movie. So like all I can do is, you know, engage with someone in like a roundabout way, mention, oh yeah, no, you're doing a movie, and try to friend that person, and then hopefully because we've had that engagement, that person will see my posts on my real wall, or you know, on my page or whatever it is. So anyway, that's how I go about it. Any advice on an effective movie poster? Would a low budget movie do better revealing the monster in the poster, for instance? That's a really tough question. And actually, that's something I've been struggling with on Craving. You see it back there. And it's just, you know, that's not even the monster's teeth. That's just a generic image. But I think that was the way to go for that. Man, it's just such a tough question. Like if your movie, if the reveal or the monster's look is, you know, spoilery, then, you know, I wouldn't put it on a poster. But, you know, we're in a time, and I talked about this earlier, where, you know, marketing is so hard, and it's so hard to get eyeballs on our movies at all, you know, at all. You know, we want to come at it with everything we got. So I can see the arguments for it both ways. You know, one, that it's like too spoilery, you don't want to get it away. But on the other hand, we want to get anyone to watch our movies. So, you know, that's a question everyone has to answer for themselves as far as what they want to give away or not. But honestly, for effective movie posters, one thing that I found that's a really cool little hack trick, hack trick is to when you finish your poster, take it, shrink it down to like thumbnail size, and just like overlay it like on Amazon or something, like on their search page, with a bunch of other movies, and see what it looks like on other movies. Is it standing out? Are you using the exact same colors? Is it fading together? Because like, you know, on streaming, most people that are browsing, they're looking at everything in thumbnail size. They're looking at it against a bunch of other titles. So you want yours to, you know, pop out. You know, like for example, on Craving, when the distributor was starting to shop the movie to buyers at AFM, they had this like catalog page, and the catalog page had like, I don't know, like 20 movies. You know, like 4 rows of 5, boom, 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 boom. And I gave them a different poster, not that teeth poster. It was like, I have another one that's like red and black. Shit, I don't have it here. And it had the people's faces on it. It was the poster I used, the main poster I used for the crowdfunding, and that poster helped us raise, you know, 60 grand on the crowdfunder. But in thumbnail size, that poster, it doesn't stick out. It looked very monochromatic. It was just kind of red and black. The faces were too small. The text was too small. It was like, and buyers, you know, in relation to the other movies that on there, were not clicking. So the distributor changed it on the second day to that poster behind you, and we got more clicks than any other movie. You know, it was popping out at that point. So I would say that little, you know, shrink it down. And as far as marketing goes, if you're going to spend money on something that you can't create yourself, and you're going to spend a good chunk of change, poster. You know, some people will say trailer, but I say no. I said poster in the streaming world is the most important thing, because like that's the first thing that's going to get people to either click or not. You know what I mean? You know, like they're not even going to get to the trailer if that poster ain't good in general. You know. Somebody asked, what's the approximate average return? Man, I wish I could tell you. It is all over the place. I mean, I could take my 60 films and do a medium average, but it's not going to be helpful to you or to anybody else. Movies, an individual movie's worth in the marketplace is completely different, man. I mean, if you want to know what the average of like 1,000 or 2,000 indie films were in 2021, I do have a video on here that another filmmaker did, where he actually averaged the numbers, and it was pretty sobering. You know, like he had like I think he had close to 2,000 films, and you know, I think the averages were like around $200 a month. You know, it was something low. But like I said, you can't really look at averages because every film is individual. You know, this last year, I had one movie that was making $16,000 a month for his first few months. I had another movie that honestly is relatively, you know, as far as genre and everything, about the same, and made about $20 a month. So, you know, it's you never know, man. You're not going to get a good answer to that from anyone. I recently sold one. Would you be amazed at how much they paid? But at least now I can say it's on Netflix. Oh yeah. I've heard that many times. I actually did an interview with a filmmaker that produced One Bedroom, which it was a Shudder exclusive, and then they got a Netflix deal, and millions of people have seen the movie on Netflix. And he, again, just like you, he can't tell us exactly what they paid, but he said it's not. He's actually waiting for the movie to come out on Tubi, where he thinks they're going to make their real money. Like Netflix was basically promotion for their Tubi release. At least that was kind of what he was getting at. And it's the same way. It's like what I was talking about, like Shudder earlier, and Shudder may pay better. I'm not, I can't get into their rates, but I think, like, when I look at Craving and what I'm projecting Craving to make, I think the bulk of the money is going to come initially from TVOD and then Tubi, Amazon, like in the SVOD or AVOD realm, and I think both of those will probably outpay what the movie might make on Shudder. But I think that initial Shudder release will help drive that Tubi and Amazon things later. How do I judge my movie success? Well, I mean, it's different. It's a general term. I mean, like if a movie came out well, then it was creatively successful. If a movie makes money, it's financially successful. It's like different things. Like in general terms on this channel, because I'm talking about distribution and marketing. So if I say a film was successful, I'm most likely talking financially, because I, like, on this channel, I don't really get in a lot to into subjective, like creative, good or bad. I just talk about, like objective, it made money or it didn't. So typically on this channel, I'm talking financial. Oh, I'm going to put this comment up here. Lori says, my thought on posters: plan your poster. Don't just throw something together. Don't go overboard either. The point of a poster is to grab attention and interest without giving away spoilers, readable text. So I totally agree with everything. The spoiler thing, I think it depends. I don't think that's a set in stone thing, is like, especially in regards to the creature one. But I totally, it is about the most important piece of advertising you're going to make. So, like, put some real effort into your poster. And actually, you know what? Now that I actually think about it, I actually don't disagree with her on the spoiler thing. Like, I mean, I was sitting here saying, well, maybe you should do it, but I just faced that exact same conundrum, and I didn't do it. The other poster I was talking about, it has like a vague silhouette of the monster, but I didn't actually give away the monster. And in the trailers that have none of have come out yet, but none of them will feature like the full-on monster. You'll just see little bits on it. But yeah, I 100% agree with this comment right here. You mentioned Shudder and Netflix acting like marketing for AVOD. How would that manifest? Are you thinking people have seen it but not what? No. It's a matter of what's the word? Visibility, seeability. People will have heard of it. You know what I mean? Like when a movie is big on Netflix and people are talking about it, like the One Bedroom movie, for example, like, millions of people have watched that on Netflix. And a lot of those people have friends, have Facebook friends, have Twitter friends, have real life friends that don't do Netflix, that do Tubi. You know what I mean? And there are people that will, follow and support it. But it's a matter of visibility. It's the exact same mindset and what studio have been saying for years. Back in the VHS days and DVD days, they would say like theatrical was the promotion for the movie. Everybody would talk about what movies make in box office, but it was always, not always, but it got to be where DVD, VHS sales, TV sales, those were where the movies really made money. I mean, like, look at Shawshank Redemption. When that came out, it was a middling success. Like, what was it, like a $20 million budget? I forget what the box office was, but it was not huge. Like, it might have broke even. It might have made a little bit, but it was not a hit. But right now, like today, like Shawshank is like one of the top like 3 or 4 grossing like studio films of all time, like on cable TV, like TNT or wherever it plays all the time. You know what I mean? So it's something like Shudder or Netflix. It's a legitimacy thing. You know, like if you have it, the movie has a level of legitimacy with certain people. Oh, the buyer's market. Usually what happens, and it's different for different distributors and different buyers, but usually what you'll do, like if you're going to AFM or something, is you'll create a sales trailer. And the sales trailer, it's not for public. It's basically a totally like spoiler, take you through the entire freaking movie, like all the way. You know, like they usually run anywhere from like 2 minutes 30 seconds to 3 minutes 30 seconds, like long, you know. And it'll, like I said, it features all of the elements of the movie. Like if like I'm doing Craving, so my sales trailer, you know, it had the setup, it had, you know, the inciting incident, what was going on, it had the monster stuff, the best stuff, you know. So and then the buyers will look at that, and then based on that, they'll watch a screener or they won't, you know. And then usually they'll make their decision, you know, based on that. Do you think AFM and other markets are still relevant, or would you spend more energy on self-distribution or self-distribution at the market? So I personally don't do a ton of straight up self-distribution. You know, I like working with distributors or, you know, like stuff like FilmHUB, you know, although I guess you could technically say that's self-distribution. I think markets are still relevant, but I don't think they were ever like, I think there's a misconception amongst filmmakers that markets are there for filmmakers to go sell their movies. And it's not. Markets are more about buyers and distributors, you know, the platforms and the distributors. And yes, they usually set aside some time to talk to new filmmakers, but like I went to AFM, I've probably been a dozen times, and you know, I went to Cannes, and I've been to NIPT a bunch of times, and I have never made a deal at any of those that I couldn't have made by just picking up the phone or sending an email. So for filmmakers, but you know, like I said, you know, our distributor just took you know, Craving to AFM, and they're talking to buyers for it. So yeah, absolutely, it's great. But I don't think they're really there for filmmakers. I don't think they ever were. I think that's a misconception. Yes, yeah. Indie Rights is distributing Craving. All right, guys. So that is that. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure, and if you are not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. One thing that helps, you know, besides the like super chat stuff, if you want to just do some free things to support it, go share one of the videos. Okay, like go into the channel, pick a video. Hey, this was a cool video, and share it. You know, or you know, my IMDb is in the descriptions for most of my videos. If you can't find it, just look me up, Jay Horton. Go down my thing. Give a few of the movies a fair rating. You know, something like that. Anything helps. Anyway, thanks, guys. Talk to you later.